Great, thank you, Judith. And it's actually going to be me and Amy talking about the role of the monitor. And we're starting with Amy, so I'll pass the mic.
Wonderful. Thanks, Heidi. So we just wanted to give you a little bit of background about, what is this monitor? What is this monitor supposed to do? So just by way of table setting, the monitor is appointed for an initial 2-year term that's extendable by agreement of the parties and with approval of the court. And the first thing the monitor has to do is within 30 days draft a monitoring plan. And that is really the roadmap for how that initial 2-year term is going to go. They're going to identify the areas that are going to be subject to monitoring assessment, and that is those areas that are not already in self-monitoring or those areas that have not been partially terminated already. And then they're going to identify the assessments they will use to assess whether or not the city is in substantial compliance. So that monitoring plan is really pivotal document because it sets the stage and the roadmap for the next 2 years. And the next thing the monitor has to do is start conducting compliance assessments. And that is the assessments and audits that the monitor is going to use to determine whether or not the city is in substantial compliance with any of the provisions that are still subject to monitoring under the agreement. So another critical task for the monitor.
Great, thank you. And then another duty that the monitor will have is to perform outcome assessments. So they'll be looking at what are the outcomes or certain outcomes that they can look for to see if the city and the Bureau are reaching those. And they'll be assessing how we're doing with that. They'll be identifying compliance barriers and making recommendations to us for ways to overcome those barriers. So we really will rely on their expertise that the team brings in all areas of the settlement agreement and how they can help us overcome any challenges that we may still be facing. And then they'll also be filing semi-annual reports with the court. And in those reports, they'll be talking about the compliance that Amy was talking about earlier, where they're twice a year, they're assessing our compliance with the settlement agreement. And those get filed with the court, and then we'll have a court hearing, and all of us, along with all of you, hopefully from the community, will get to talk with the judge about how we're doing on things. So that's a brief, really high level overview of the role of the independent monitor. And with that, Judith, we'll turn it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will go over the rest of the agenda. Sorry, I got a little distracted. So Stephanie in just a minute is going to review the process up to this point where we are today in the hiring process. Then we're going to have the presentations from the candidates. They're not going to be more than 15 minutes each. After each one, we'll have a time for clarifying questions. So if you didn't understand something, but it's going to be a very short period of time because we want to get everyone's stuff out there before we really get into the questions and answers, which will happen after we've heard from all 3 of the teams. We will have a question and answer time, and then we'll talk about conclusions and next steps. There will also, I want to reassure any community members here, there's going to be ways in which you can give your feedback that is going to be open until March 24th. You'll get all that information. So, this is not your, this is the first bite of the apple, not the last. So you know that. Okay, so now Stephanie, if you would tell us about where we've been on this process.
I'm sure people understand about Brambles.
I did, yeah. Thank you.
Right. So just to give us a quick overview of the process that's brought us to this point, as was outlined in the most recent amendments to the settlement agreement, the process has been prescribed there. And what happened there was that the city attorney's office and the DOJ worked together to craft a public posting inviting proposals for this position and work to promote that. From there, once the posting closed, all of the applications that were received were reviewed by a screening panel that included the city attorney's office, representation from each city council office, the Department of Justice, and we also had representatives from the Mental Health Alliance, from the Albina Ministerial Alliance, as well as PSEP, the Portland Committee on Community Engaged Policing, and a representative from the Portland Police Association. And so from that screening, the candidate list was narrowed and went on to first interviews. Again, those interviews were conducted by the city attorney's office and the Department of Justice. However, there were also representatives from the city council offices and observers from the Mental Health Alliance, from the Albina Ministerial Alliance, PSEP, and the PPA. Sir, do I see you having a question?
Okay, thanks. I will, let me send it to you. I will get it for you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
So wherever you'd like.
All right. So from after first interviews, when those were conducted and observed by the participants from the Amici groups and the community, that feedback was taken into consideration and a community forum, this community forum was announced on February 9th. The decision of the screening panel at that point advanced 3 candidates to this forum. And so that is who we're here to hear from tonight, the 3 candidates that have advanced. Again, as has been said, and I'll keep saying, public comment, all of the candidates' applications or proposals or their resumes were posted online and promoted through different city channels of communication for public input. And we're accepting that public input again until March 24th. And again, tonight here as well through questions and answers. From here, there will be one set of final interviews for each of the 3 candidates. Again, those will be observed by the Amici representatives, and they'll be allowed to provide feedback for the DOJ and the city to consider as they determine who their proposed candidate would be. And once that candidate is determined, then there will be a report that goes to city council seeking authorization to file a motion together with the city and the DOJ requesting appointment of that candidate and appointment by the court after a fairness hearing. And so with that, I think we are fast forwarded through the process to hear tonight from each of the candidates, and I'll hand it back to Judith.
Judith, we have a request online to see both the speaker and the slides. Can you do both at once?
I don't, that's a technological question that I don't think we can zoom in on each speaker. Is that correct?
Can we see the speakers as they sit here with the slides behind them? The people on the Zoom are only seeing the slides right now. We're not seeing
So
this group, but I think they'll want to see the.
Yeah, we'll take the slides down when we're doing, no, we're not.
That's a view that they can select on their own. We can
So-
control that.
And we'll put something in there, but in the view options, if you get out of full screen, then it'll go down and then you can open up the participants and look at both. So there we go.
Okay.
Is that better for folks online? Please message us.
People. Okay. You understand that they can now. Thank you.
Before we start, there was also a question in the chat asking about the difference between the COCO and the monitor. Is that a question we want to answer at this point, or do you want to wait? No question answered.
Well, we can really quickly just say that. So the compliance, the COCO is the compliance officer and community liaison. And they have not been the monitor. DOJ has been the monitor up until the court ordered a change. And so the compliance officer was doing some assessments of the city and the bureau and the work that had been done. And then sending that information both to DOJ, to the city, and to the community. But DOJ was making the actual compliance assessment determinations of whether or not the city was in substantial compliance or not yet met substantial compliance with each paragraph. When the court appointed an independent monitor, then the monitor's job will now be to take over that role of monitoring and DOJ will have the sole role of being the plaintiff in the case.
Thank you. Sorry, trying to figure out a few technical things while we keep moving forward. Okay, so now we're going to start by hearing from the candidate groups. And we have the Crime and Justice Institute. Katie Zaft is our lead for that. And as many of you as would like, if, you know, you want to have come up here for that, that's great. Yes.
Great. And then we have the PowerPoint presentation too, correct? Okay. I think everybody's. Yeah. Great. Hi, everybody. My name is Katie Zaft. I am the lead monitor for the Crime and Justice Institute's team. I want to thank you for your time tonight. Sustained police reform doesn't really happen without guidance from the community. And I know that community members sit at these tables and share their experiences a lot. And so we appreciate your time tonight to get to know us, and so we can get to know Portland better as well. My role with CJI is to lead our policing and evaluation work. And 5 years ago, I came to CJI to do that. Focusing specifically on a settlement agreement in Milwaukee. Their settlement agreement is about racial disparities in police stops, and my role was to try to develop a way to track and measure that for their agreement. Over time, the policing team at CJI has functioned as an come in as a monitor. We work collaboratively with departments as well to drive their change forward as external partners. The focus of my career has been to translate complex data into actionable change, and that's how I lead our CJI team as well. We get to collaborate a lot with community members in the projects that we carry out, and we expect to be able to do that here in Portland too. So most of what you'll hear from us during this 15 minutes as we support our facilitator, and I'm going to set a time limit for myself, is to introduce each of our team members. We have a pretty big team. Part of that is to try to create redundancy in some of our expertise and experiences, to offer diversity to this team in Portland, and to speak to the requirements of the agreement. So we have just a really brief PowerPoint presentation just to show you who we are. So we are the Crime and Justice Institute is a division of Community Resources for Justice. It's a nonprofit organization out of Boston. However, members of the Crime and Justice Institute live and work across the country. So we're a remote organization for the most part. The Community Resources for Justice has been on the Eastern Seaboard forever, for a very, very long time. And the other divisions work collaboratively with communities across those states, both supporting people with developmental disabilities and also people reentering from incarcerated populations. The Crime and Justice Institute was born out of offering policy and technical expertise to other states as well. And based on our experiences working in communities around Massachusetts. You can go to the next slide. So the policing team that I lead is focused on accountability. Yeah, that's the slide. Is focused on accountability and partnerships with law enforcement and community, either through mandated changes or voluntary changes across many topic areas, including use of force, behavioral health. I want each of our team members to introduce themselves briefly, and then I'll give you a 30-second speech about our approach to monitoring, and happy to answer any of the questions that you might have. So next slide. So we put ourselves up here on slides so that you could see which topic areas each team member is particularly focused on. I already introduced myself, so I'm going to pass it to Lauren Leonard.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lauren Leonard and I'm the deputy monitor for the CGI team. I'm really excited to be here. Portland has a special place. Can everybody hear me? All right. So Portland's a special place in my heart. I lived here for a number of years. My sister lives here. My best friends live here. I'm here pretty often. I recognize some of you. I know I've briefed to some of you before. So that's very exciting for me. And, as the deputy monitor of the CGI team, my job really is to be the project manager. So I define goals, I define ways to get there, making sure we stay on schedule, making sure that we're meeting all the expectations of everybody that's involved, both you guys, the team, all the parties that are inherently interested in making sure that this is a successful program. So prior to joining CGI, I did work at the Portland Police Bureau as a use of force auditor with the Inspector General's office and a professional standards analyst. So that's where I know some of you from. I have briefed to the Training Advisory Council, for example. So I'm really excited to kind of jump back into this. And so I also was a special agent with the FBI. I've worked as a product manager. So I kind of have a wide breadth of experience, but really I'm excited to be back here in Portland working on the thing that gave me the experience to know what a settlement agreement was and the importance of it to ensure that community is exactly what it's intended to be, which is driving change and driving the decisions of the organizations that are working to support it. So that's kind of my little passion speech, but really I just want to make sure that's very clear that our team does have that experience as well, but I'm going to go ahead and pass it to Andrea.
Yeah. I'm gonna scoot real close to you
Sorry, yeah.
so I can get that mic. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me. My name is Andrea Tyree. My role in this will be as the associate monitor with a focus on PPB's behavioral health response, community engagement, and accountability mechanisms. I come to this table with a background in community organizing, including around policing in my own community back in West Virginia. I also have a master's degree where I focused on researching best practices in policing. And I have a career steeped in analysis and evaluation, such as a national assessment of outcomes related to consent decrees like that in Portland. In other words, I come here prioritizing evidence-based practices, but also using a community-centered lens whenever possible. I really look forward to better understanding the community perceptions of the Portland Police Bureau and the Bureau's efforts to meet Portland's public safety needs. I'm very grateful to be a part of this team, and I'm grateful to hear your questions and your feedback tonight. So thank you all, including those online, for being here today. And now I'm going to pass it to my colleague, Dondre, who is online.
Hello, everybody. My name is Dondre Jefferson. It's a pleasure to speak with you all. First, I want to give some background about myself. I have a bachelor's degree in sociology and a master's in public administration with a focus in city governance from the University of Louisville. I previously worked for Louisville Metro government as a performance analyst for youth detention and for Metro Parks, tracking key performance indicators and making sure the department hits all their metrics. In my previous role, directly before coming to CGI, I was a program manager for Louisville's group violence intervention efforts, working with federal, state, local law enforcement, local community, and community outreach providers to reduce group violence in the city. On this team, I'll be monitoring analyst specifically focused on qualitative data collection and analysis across different topic areas within the settlement agreement. Thank you all for your time and for the opportunity to speak with you all. And now I'll pass it to my colleague, Amanda.
Hi, everyone. Really happy to be here this evening. My name is Amanda Kasha, and I work as a communications and design specialist here at CJI. I have almost a decade of experience now translating complex concepts into accessible and engaging content for diverse audiences. Prior to coming to CJI, I worked for the National Criminal Justice Association in Washington, D.C. as a policy analyst, where I specialized in government affairs. In my current role, I lead design and strategic communications for several of our project portfolios, including policing, community supervision, reentry, and youth justice. Should my team be fortunate enough to be selected for this opportunity, I would use my experience to continue to help amplify and elevate the work of my colleagues and ensure that our communications and deliverables are not only accessible, but are also reflective of the values and priorities of the Portland community and police department. So thanks so much for having us, and I will now pass it off to my colleague and our lead designer, Ashley Neufeld.
Thank you, Amanda, and I'm also happy to be here as well. As Amanda said, my name is Ashley Neufeld, and I am the design and digital media specialist here at CJI. And on this team, my role will be to design and maintain the monitoring team website. In my current position, I am responsible for managing our website at CJI, where I oversee design, analytics, and accessibility compliance. I have extensive design experience within the nonprofit sector, most recently working at a supportive housing nonprofit in San Francisco, where I oversaw brand strategy and website and digital media management. I am excited to be a part of this project in developing a website that is user-friendly, accessible, and strategically designed to engage you all, the Portland community, on the monitoring work. And I will now pass it off to my colleague, Erica.
Thank you, Ashley. Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Erica Bauer, and I will be leading the quantitative data analysis and outcome assessment for the monitoring team. At CJI, I work on both policing and youth justice projects, some of which include the City of Milwaukee Police Department Settlement Agreement and the Shelby County, Tennessee Juvenile Court System Assessment. My main role is to work with our partners to understand, analyze, and interpret their data, develop tailored implementations, and make recommendations for system improvement. Prior to CJI, I worked in academic settings in sociology and criminal justice. I helped grow and lead a university coalition focused on mental health and addiction prevention, and I worked on an evaluation of bail reform policy in Virginia. I enjoy working with our partners to understand their data, collaboratively identify performance measures, and design analysis plans, which often occurs through lots of conversation. Be here today, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks. Thanks, Erica. There's a few of our subject matter experts here in the room and then a few of them online. So I'd invite them to introduce themselves as well, starting with Dr. T. Bowman.
All right, thank you. Hopefully you guys can hear me. I go by T. I'm Dr. Theron Bowman. I am a 30-year police officer. Last 14 years of my career, I served as chief of police in Arlington, Texas. That's a city, the 50th largest city in the country. Also, in addition to serving as a police officer, I served in 5 years as a city manager for Arlington, Texas as well. So I have both police department management and city management experience as well. I've spent 29 years in the college classroom teaching primarily graduate courses on criminology, criminal justice, sociology, social work, et cetera, et cetera. I'm also very actively involved in my community, and I'm proud to say that this is year number 28 of me becoming a deacon in my church, year number 4 as being the chairman of deacons in my church. I'm very actively involved in the community, honored to be a part of this great team, and looking forward to serving your community as well. I'll turn it over to Chad Gann.
Hi, my name is Chad Gann, and I have the privilege of working with Dr. Bowman on his organization as chief of staff. And I'm also very excited to be here. I bring to Portland a very diverse set of education and skills and experience. I've served as a police officer in Arlington, Texas for 15 years, a paramedic for over 25 years, and an ER nurse as well. So I'm a licensed RN. And one of my specialty areas, one that I'm very passionate about, is working in the behavioral health realm, bringing together social services. And so that's the area that I'll be working with on this team with CJI.
Thanks, Chad.
Hello, everyone. My name is Shantae Boston, and I'm part of the monitoring team here. Currently, I am an assistant chief in Wisconsin right now in the Sun Prairie Police Department. I spent 26 years in the Milwaukee Police Department and retired there as an inspector. My specialty areas is a lot, but the main ones with this will be use of force, accountability, compliance, along with policies and training. I'm still in law enforcement because I love it. I love the communities. I truly believe in policing in our communities and making sure that we are all on one accord. One of the special things that I do bring to the team is being able to connect inwardly with the police department as well as outwardly with our community. I do truly believe that there's a medium and there's a happy balance, and we all can get from A to Z and be happy and be able to work together. So that's what I bring to the team.
We need 12 more mics.
Yeah.
One individual. Oh, I'm really funny. So one individual who's not able to be here is Miss Carla Penn-Hobson. And we were fortunate enough to be connected with Carla when we asked for somebody in the community who could help us, one, understand the priorities of Portland, but also somebody that was really ingrained in the ways that in the communities that are most often affected by policing. And so Carla Penn-Hobson is currently a sustainability officer with Self-Enhancement Inc. She primarily works in development, implementation, and evaluation. And she has lived here for a number of years. I think a lot of people know Carla. She's really somebody who is really a champion of the community. And we think she's going to bring a perspective as well as just a work ethic and a dedication to our goals that really align with both the goals of Portland and the goals of our team as a whole. So you will all get to meet Carla. If you don't know Carla, which I know a lot of people do, you will also get to meet her. Okay, thanks. Can you pass it? I'm not.
Sorry. Emily Gunston, are you online?
I'm here. Yes. Good evening, everyone. My name is Emily Gunston. I'm going to be working on misconduct and accountability if we're fortunate enough to be selected to work on this matter. I am an attorney. I've been practicing for over 20 years, and I have focused my career on criminal justice reform and police practices and public policy generally. I spent about 9 years in the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice, where I was bringing cases like this. I investigated police departments and developed and negotiated reforms, and then worked very closely with police departments and communities to try to implement those reforms. I worked very closely and for a long time on the New Orleans Police Department. I helped lead the investigation of the Chicago Police Department, and I worked on the Cleveland Police Department case as well. I started my career as a public defender. I did that for 8 years. And most recently, I have worked at the Office of Attorney General for the District of Columbia. I was had a number of positions there. I ran all of our policy work and legislative work, and then most recently was the first Assistant Attorney General. So I helped run the 700-person agency and its $150 million budget. The District of Columbia is not a state. And so that office functions both as a state attorney general and as a city attorney's office. So part of our role there was to represent all of the city agencies and the range of issues that affect the District of Columbia, including the police department. So I've worked with many monitoring teams. I've seen these issues from multiple different angles and would really welcome the opportunity to work with this fantastic team to help implement the reforms here in Portland. Thank you.
So we're running out of time. What I was going to give you an additional 2 minutes, just to, and during the questions and answers, you're going to be able to say.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then the other teams will also get them.
We just have 2 more people. Promise. Someone who's not present is Michael Durden. He's a law enforcement expert on our team and will be focused on use of force accountability and training. Also online is Dr. Richard Rosenthal. Richard, do you want to say 30 seconds about yourself?
Sure. Good evening. I'm Dr. Richard Rosenthal. My part on the CHI team would involve providing subject matter expertise on accountability and civilian oversight. I've been working in this area since 2001, after serving as a public corruption prosecutor in LA County, and then moving into civilian oversight, where I created and ran oversight programs in Portland as the first director of the IPR for Denver and British Columbia as well. I received my PhD in criminology with an emphasis on civilian oversight in 2022. I published extensively on the topic, and I provided expertise in this area to both the Cleveland and the Seattle federal monitoring teams. Currently serving as the independent police auditor for the city of Pasadena, California, but I do have significant time to devote to the project. Quite excited to come back to Portland and share what I've learned since I left in 2005.
Thanks, Richard.
And my name is Lisa Fink. I'm the last one. I live in Eugene, so I just drove up that windy I-5. I've been working in the spacing of police reform since 2017 in the earliest days of the Baltimore Police Department consent decree, writing policy and creating training to satisfy the requirements of that agreement. I've had the privilege of serving on the Cleveland monitoring team, though no longer serve that role, and have been able to work on the the Puerto Rico consent decree, where I'm assisting with a group of folks providing technical assistance, as well as soon to be working on the Minneapolis consent decree. But prior to policing, I worked in the community in various spaces, mostly with the Latinx community, working with victims of domestic violence and sexual violence, on language interpreting as a language access coordinator, and on restorative justice. So I'm really excited to be here. I'm really looking forward and hoping that I get the chance to work with you all.
Thanks, Lisa. My last word is that our approach to monitoring focuses on community engagement, assessment, and implementation, which is why we've assembled all of these people to help us do that.
Thanks so much. Thanks
Thanks.
for joining. Come back again.
Sure.
Great to hear about all your incredible careers. Thank you. Next, we're going to hear from DLG Consulting, Daryl Niner. Higher. Hi. Settle in. I'll get a better percentage.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Daryl Nyer. I'm the owner of DLG Consulting and Advisory Services. I want to thank you tonight for attending and giving us the opportunity. I'm honored to be one of the 3 finalists that is up for the position of monitor for the city and the Portland Bureau. I have a very unique background, a very broad background. I spent 20 years in a prosecutor's office in New Jersey. Retiring from there, I went to an accounting firm, regional accounting firm, where I started and headed up. I was the partner in charge of international and domestic monitoring, along with internal investigations. We also provided pro bono expert witness testimony for criminal indigent defendants, along with our services in police reform and constitutional policing. While I was there, we worked on the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office engagement. I'm currently the External Force Investigative Team Administrator in Albuquerque. We have successfully transitioned on time, under budget, the role of use of force investigations back to Albuquerque Police Department. And we're just wrapping up some of the backlog investigations currently, but that will be done before this engagement starts. I believe that our proposal is distinctive by focusing on technical assistance, fair and consistent evaluations, and community engagement. For the city of Portland, a prospective approach focused on the remaining paragraphs through the implementation of daily feedback and targeted technical assistance as necessary to fulfill the city's goal of achieving full compliance with the consent decree within the proposed 2-year period. I believe that our methodology is more effective than the traditional industry's approach to addressing monitoring in a retrospective manner every 6 months. If appointed, I plan to become part of this community, not just look at this from afar. We understand that the bedrock of any consent decree is the relationship between the city's communities, community groups, the amicis, and the men and women of the police bureau. The police must carefully consider how the residents want their communities policed and what their priorities are. The community, in turn, must consider how to assist and cooperate with the police to fight crime and to share information and to enhance public safety. All of us must work together to successful conclusion of the federal oversight of the city of Portland and the Portland Police Bureau. My team is diverse, seasoned group of experts from a variety of fields who have successfully engineered and enacted police reforms in other law enforcement agencies, including agencies like the Portland Police Bureau, who are under a federal monitor. After the presentation by my team, we'll take any questions that you may have. But for right now, let me introduce our Associate Monitor, Corey Lowe.
Good evening. Can you guys hear me okay? Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity for the presentation tonight. Like Daryl said, my name is Corey Lowe. I retired from the Albuquerque Police Department in December of 2023. I retired as the Deputy Chief of the Accountability Bureau. So since 2017, I've been working on our settlement agreement. I had complete oversight over everything, everything that had to do with compliance. And so understand that the major areas of my management and oversight was policy, training, early intervention, auditing, and just keep in mind, auditing covered everything that we could try to do in accordance with our policy and our settlement agreement. So it went from use of force to community engagement, to supervision, to training. We also continue to do self-assessments for a lot of our paragraphs that are in sustained compliance. The data reporting, I was over the data division. That's where we really started increasing and doing a really good job in the last few years. We built an entire data division and compliance bureau over the last 6 years. So we can make sure that we were going to be able to sustain this process once the federal oversight was gone. I'm very confident that we can continue to do that. I'm very action item and result driven, which is what's needed in consent decrees to try to get you to operational compliance and to be able to sustain long term. With me and to my right is Dr. Peter Winograd. Dr. Winograd, we've been really lucky as a city to have him on 2 different projects, one of which is our settlement agreement. He worked very closely with me when we first started in 2017, going through data. He is a policy analyst, so we're able to get there, and we took a lot of steps because we started seeing that there was gaps in our data, and we really wanted to close that together and be able to use that data for outcomes. You know, we talk about outcomes measurements. They are very important to policing and to the reform effort altogether. And the second thing that Dr. Winograd worked on was what's called the McClendon settlement. That main focus was on unnecessary arrest and incarceration of individuals experiencing homelessness and also or behavioral health crisis. So there's a lot of work that has been done by Dr. Winograd in the last 9 years that we could definitely transfer over into the city of Portland. If we were appointed this project, the 4 areas that I'd be over essentially is use of force audits, which we all understand the importance of just being able to audit and use that information to gather and inform decisions, training principles and the audits of that training, early intervention, and then strengthening the community oversight of the Portland Police Bureau. Again, keep skipping, sorry, can we skip a couple?
In the slide.
Yeah, just go, we can go ahead and move it until there, you'll see a graph. More, yes, more. One more. And so really the processes that you build are driven around policy and training and then the results of that. And so one of the things we wanted to see in Albuquerque is a reduction of use of force incidents. And in order to do that, we had to really revise our policy. Then we revised our training. And then we started measuring to see what we had. So this is just an example of one of the things that we did with Dr. Winograd at the end of 2023. And what we saw was that you can see when the policy kind of changed. Of course, there was also COVID in there as well. But the arrests or the in custody incidents were going up. and our use of force was going down. So we could still make the arrest, you can still do policing, and and still do it constitutionally without having to use force. And the lastly for me is our successful auditing functions that we've had. It's been successful for over 5 years. We started it from New Orleans. We've made it our own. That's something that's really important to any city. Is not everything is cookie cutter. It's not just going to fit automatically. You have to fit what works for your agency and for your community. We've now become a model agency for structures of auditing. We do tons of it every month. And I say we, sorry, I've retired. I still haven't transitioned necessarily to civilian world, but it's something that is very positive. Louisville, Phoenix, Minneapolis have all reached out and come and visit us to see what we're doing out there. And it's a really good work. So with that, I know we're limited a little bit on time. So I want to close. Thank you for everyone again. And I will pass it to Kathy McLaughlin for community engagement.
Thanks, Corey. My name is Kathy McLaughlin. I am thank you, born in Portland, a lifelong resident with the exception of a couple of years after college. My area of engagement in this particular task will be community engagement. And my background is a little different in that I'm an accountant. I worked as an auditor with the Secretary of State's office in Salem for 7 years. After which I went to work at the Oregon Department of Justice as a financial investigator right around the time that Oregon developed the racketeering laws and decided that they needed some accountants on their staff as investigators in order to get into the details of financial transactions that would be needed to prosecute those cases. So we were hired, a couple of us, and we actually had to go to the police academy. So I did become a certified police officer, but my primary focus was getting at those numbers. I have worked in Portland as a volunteer since my retirement. Even prior to my retirement, I actually worked on the Portland Police Budget Advisory Committee. I worked on the Fire Bureau's Budget Advisory Committee several years ago. I'm a CASA volunteer with the Court-Appointed Special Advocate for Foster Kids. I'm a SMART reader at Preston Grade School. I pick up garbage for SMART a couple times a month. And I was also a member of the Public Finance Committee on the first iteration of that attempt at public financing for citywide offices several years ago. As I mentioned, my focus on this engagement, if we were lucky enough to get it, is to look at community engagement. And even though I'm a lifelong Portlander and I'm fairly familiar with the communities in Portland that have an interest in policing, I still need to do some research on who are the communities who really are interested in what happens with Portland's use of force and their police monitoring. So our primary initial task will be to identify those communities. Who are they? Where do they meet? When do they have meetings? Can we attend the meetings? What is their interest? I know that Portland groups love to organize groups. You have lots of neighborhood associations here. You have many city-sponsored groups that have an interest in policing. You have many other groups that have a great interest in policing. And we're going to talk to most of them. I'm not going to say all of them, but we're going to talk to a lot of them. We're going to find out when they have their meetings. We're going to go to their meetings. We're going to find out what their concerns are about the policing in the city. And we're going to ask them for suggestions. And we will constantly be communicating back what they're telling us. So that's my background, and I will introduce my colleague in this endeavor, Dr. Steve Rickman, who will also be working on the community engagement portion of this task. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here this evening.
Good evening, and thanks for giving us the opportunity to talk with you. My name is Steve Rickman, and I will be supporting Kathy. My background, I'm a native Washingtonian. That's Washington, D.C. I actually started as a community organizer, then went to school, and ended up working as an analyst, and working with the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police Department. So I did that for a while, and then ended up working in the city administrator's office where I helped to coordinate the various public safety agencies. I tell folks it was the worst job in the world because you have all these responsibility, but you have no authority. So you get the bad phone calls. But anyway, I did that for a while. Then I was an emergency management director for about 5 years there. And there was a lot of flying around. But I did learn a lot about city agencies, city operations. While I was there, we set up these community empowerment centers in some of our more marginalized neighborhoods. And the idea was to bring coordinated city services and partner with community-based organizations to try to improve the safety and health of those communities. I was recruited to the Department of Justice, and I worked there for almost 7 years at the Office of Justice Programs, where we set up community-based programs really around the country. And the whole idea here was to create police community partnerships. We would provide some funding, they would develop these strategies, and we would go in and provide technical assistance and training. And the effort there was once again to go into some of the more marginalized neighborhoods and try to make things better for everyone. Lessons that I learned in doing this was things get done when people find a way to work together. Really, it sounds simple, but it's so critical to figure out a way to get all the various stakeholders to find a way to agree on what their goals and objectives are to come work together. So after that, I eventually retired from the federal government and started working in a more focused way on police reform. Okay, I'm jumping off right now.
Okay.
Jumping off right now. So currently I work as a monitor in both Chicago and in Albuquerque as an associate monitor, and helping to really try to bridge community with police.
And I'd like to introduce our fellow associate auditor, Daryl Bowen.
Thank you. Good evening. We're running a little short on time. My name is Daryl Bowen. I'm the other Daryl of the team. I'm a retired internal affairs commander of an organization that was also under a court order. I have almost 10 years of continuous internal affairs experience. Upon retirement, I joined the Albuquerque External Force Investigations team, where I oversaw approximately 1,600 use of force investigations over the last 2.5 years. As an associate monitor, I will oversee the use of force, internal affairs, and discipline. Out of interest of time, I'm going to pass it off to Jamie.
Thank you, Daryl. Good evening. My name is Jamie Kilberg. I'm an attorney here in Portland. I'm a criminal defense attorney, principally focused on federal criminal defense, representing indigent defendants in federal court under the Criminal Justice Act. My role on the team will be to serve as a legal advisor. I've had an opportunity to interact with the local police bureau in Portland, as well as police departments around the community as in my role as a criminal defense attorney. So I'll be helping the monitoring team with any legal issues that arise as part of the monitoring, as well as making sure that we're tied into the legislative issues. As many of you probably know, the legislative session just closed, and there's a substantial number of criminal justice acts that have come out of that could have an impact significantly going forward on policing in the community with the drawback of Measure 110, among other things. So I'll be assisting the monitoring team and keeping abreast of those issues and helping with the court filings as well.
So as you can see, we have a team of experts that you get to personally know. We're not a large team. We're keeping it very tight. We want to congratulate the city and Portland PD for the reduction of the 40 paragraphs. You have some very sophisticated processes. We're not coming in to reinvent the wheel, but to enhance those processes and to have you reach full compliance within the 2-year period that's set forth by the city. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Again, we will have time for any clarifying questions about anything that they've presented so far. Hoping that we've been hearing about people's expertise. Great, thank you. Again, yeah, sorry.
do have one hand raised.
Okay, Jimmy, did you have a question? Hi, Jimmy. You're on mute. On. Okay. All right, we'll circle back. Jimmy, you can also type in your question and we'll catch it.
I'll maybe test the mic to ask, please pardon me, are we waiting for a question to come in still? Okay. Ready when you are. Great. Good evening and thank you to the City of Portland and the DOJ for facilitating this opportunity to introduce our team to the community. And thank you as well to the community for your attendance tonight, for the questions that will come this evening, and also for your active involvement in supporting police reform during and even before the introduction of Portland Settlement Agreement. I'm Mark Smith. I'm the lead monitor for our team. And before my associates and I introduce ourselves further, we wanted to briefly share our proposed approach to this monitorship. If you could next, thank you. As you'll see, we combine approximately 50 years of experience directly overseeing police departments of various sizes and geographies, including those seeking compliance with a settlement agreement, as well as those successfully transitioning out of one by achieving full and sustained compliance. In addition to some amazing subject matter experts who you will meet, much of our team spends every day, many nights, and most weekends assessing police compliance with applicable policy, best practices, and constitutional law. This depth of practical experience overseeing police puts our team in the ideal position to accelerate full compliance with the remaining sections of the Portland Settlement Agreement. Our team is highly cognizant of the progress made over the last decade in implementing the reforms outlined by the agreement, and we have a firsthand understanding of how much work goes into such advances. We have the knowledge and experience needed to bring those efforts across the finish line and to do so expediently. We commit to maintaining a reliable, accessible, and responsive presence in Portland throughout the monitorship, and to being guided by the principle that everyone who makes up Portland's diverse communities deserves policing that is professional and constitutional. We will take a cost-conscious approach to this monitorship, again, recognizing that this is not a newly initiated settlement agreement, but rather one that is ready to be wound down through sustained compliance. And underlying everything we do, we will uphold the values of objectivity, transparency, thoroughness, and the highest ethical standards. Next slide, please. Along with our practical experience that I mentioned, our entire team has expertise in listening to and learning from diverse stakeholders. It is not our assumption that we will come into the monitorship already having all the answers. To the contrary, the way that we will put all this combined experience to work must be informed by community voices. We believe the monitor is here to move the needle on the remaining parts of the settlement agreement, but without the community's input on what it needs from its police department, the needle could end up moving the wrong direction. As a team, we recognize the community trauma that arises as a result of institutional racism and critical incidents involving police that result in serious injury or death. We will be constantly mindful of keeping a focus on maximizing safe encounters between police and persons suffering from mental illness or in crisis. And we will endeavor to facilitate respectful policing that meets the needs of everyone who makes up the diverse Portland community. There's a sentence in the original settlement agreement that resonates heavily with our team. It's one of the shortest sentences in that very substantial document. I think it's one of the most important and powerful ones. The community is a critical resource. Our team would embody the spirit of that sentence should we ultimately be selected for this role. And recognizing our time limitation, I'm going to try to be as brief as possible in mentioning my own background. And if you can hit the next slide, please. So you can hear more about the others who make us such a strong team. I've spent nearly 20 years overseeing police departments in different parts of the country, including the last 6 as the Inspector General of Los Angeles Police Department. I'm also a former board member of the National Association for Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement. Next slide, please. As the team's lead monitor, I would be involved in every aspect of the monitorship should we be selected for this role. From development of the monitoring plan to reviewing use of force policy investigations, to advising on officer training, to facilitating robust accountability systems, to ensuring the community's voice is being heard and incorporated into our work. This job would become my primary professional responsibility, and I would be involved in every aspect of it. One of the most important things I would be doing is ensuring that all of my teammates were in a position to utilize their invaluable expertise to accelerate compliance with the settlement agreement. And with that, I'll now turn it over to them each for a brief introduction.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Brian Buckner, and I bring more than 20 years of specialized experience in police accountability, civilian oversight, and criminal justice policy to this team. Currently, I'm an Assistant Inspector General for the Los Angeles Police Department, but I also gained deep insight into oversight when I served as a police special investigator in the same office during a crucial transitional period when the LAPD was operating under a consent decree. And as the decree concluded, the responsibility for conducting ongoing comprehensive oversight of the LAPD shifted from the federal monitor and the Department of Justice to the Inspector General's office where I worked. My background also includes pivotal roles in the Los Angeles Mayor's office, focusing on homelessness and public safety policy, and I served as the City of Los Angeles Homelessness Coordinator. I served 3 terms as president of the nation's largest civilian oversight organization, and in that role, I worked with communities, local government, police departments to either establish or strengthen civilian oversight that reflected community needs. I co-led the most comprehensive survey in the nation comparing various oversight models and worked for the monitor of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. And I also teach in the Criminal Justice Master's Program at the University of Southern California. This combination of experience positions me to contribute significantly as a part of this monitoring team and ensuring the impactful and fair implementation of the settlement agreement. Next slide, please. In my role on the monitoring team, my comprehensive background in police accountability and oversight will allow me to focus on several areas, including but not limited to evaluating use of force policies, reporting and de-escalation techniques, monitoring investigations into officer misconduct, overseeing critical incidents, and overseeing or soliciting community input, ensuring that all voices are heard throughout the monitorship. Next slide, please.
Good evening, Antoinette. I guess I need to update my picture. My hair is no longer that color. Greetings all. I come to you today with 40+ years of experience, and my role as an expert would be in community engagement. And I have had the privilege as a public servant for this Portland borough to serve with 3 mayors and 7 police chiefs. And this is really personal for me. In my role as a director of the Office of Violence Prevention, I had the opportunity to facilitate many discussions in the community room at North Precinct after officer-involved shootings. So I've been with the parents and the historical context. It's been a journey from smoke 'em, choke 'em, possums. But what I know is we've come a long way from that. And what my grandma used to say is when you know better, you do better. But the community engagement piece, I think, is critical to this process, which is why I chose to say yes to these wonderful, mighty, small, great team. Because and I see wonderful candidates in here. When it's all said and done and you've gotten your last check, the real work continues. And I believe that healing is a constant practice, not the conclusion of a problem. We will need community even more. And I just have to give credit where it's due. Great work has been done here in Portland. And I really want to acknowledge and honor PSEP. And for those of you that don't know, it's the Portland Committee on Community Engagement Policy. They have done the heavy lifting. Dozens and dozens of community organizations and groups that come together to bring about effective community engagement. This isn't about checking a box, you all. This is about bringing community together and the spectrum of diverse thoughts from cop watch to PPA. We need everyone at the table, and there's still space open for those that we have not yet reached out to. And I really just have to say the blueprint for this work has been done through PSEP with the goal. And what I love most about it is this is not a sunset proposal. Communities need to stay engaged throughout the process so that young Black men and boys, brown boys, can feel like their color is not something that they need to be ashamed of. And it's not an armor, because it's like, my color is who I am. And if I feel like you show up and it's something against me. And I have worked with amazing police to overcome that. I have a story to share, but I'll keep it brief. For amazing officers, C-Man, Dave Barrios, wonderful community police that know community policing. And I think at the end of this proposal, whoever gets it, community must be engaged. It needs to be institutionalized, because we want more than the absence of crime. We want folks to show up feeling like there's justice in the community. And this proposal will get us to that place. Thank you.
JT online. John Thomas.
Well, it's a pleasure to be a part of this team. My name is John Thomas, and my apologies for not being able to be there in Portland. A little bit about my background, and I will keep it as brief as possible. I'm entering my 40th year of police service, starting out with the Los Angeles Police Department, where I served 21 years full-time, and I remained a reserve up until 2022. So extensive background in policing, from patrol to every part of the department, specialized to gangs. I pretty much did it all. And then over the last 18 years, making the conscious decision to go in another direction and become a part of campus policing. I am currently the chief of police at UCLA, my alma mater. And prior to that, I spent 16 years at my other alma mater, USC, the University of Southern California. So I've been fortunate enough to lead both of those police departments. But I think the two most important pieces I bring to this dynamic team is, one, growing up in South Central Los Angeles and understanding the impacts, the generational impact of what bias policing means generationally to marginalized and traumatized communities. I've spent all of my career working to be the type of officers and actually lead the type of officers that understand what was just said, is that the community has to be a part of the very fabric and institutionalized within police departments for there to be a difference made in those departments. I'm currently a part of the monitoring team in Aurora, Colorado, as a result of the tragic murder of Elijah McClain back in 2019. I've been a part of that monitoring team for the last 3 years, and my specialized area is in the area of community engagement. And that's all I have. Thank you for this opportunity.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Russell Bloom. I'm really privileged and honored to be here tonight, being able to speak with you all and as a potential member of this team. Behind me, you can see some of my relevant career highlights. As Mark Smith mentioned, together we have a lot of experience in almost every different area of police reform, police oversight, and police accountability. What I'd like to highlight from my own personal work history is really my time as a commissioner with the Berkeley Police Review Commission. This really was my entree into police oversight and accountability work as a volunteer. I became engaged in that work because I wanted to find a way to create a safer space for my 2 young sons who are now adults. And it was important for me to have some voice in that process. Doing that work is what got me really passionate about finding a way to do it professionally. And I have found a way to do that for the last nearly 10 years. What I'd like to highlight here is that what I've learned mostly from doing this work and from engaging in successful efforts to improve policing is a couple things. Police oversight isn't inherently an anti-police or an anti-public safety effort. And I think it's really important in our messaging and in our work to help the people that we all serve understand that effective police oversight improves public safety by improving the police department, improving law enforcement practices, policies, and procedures. I also have moved away from using the term best practices because everything is actually iterative over time. We learn what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. And I think effective practices is a good way of thinking about the work that we do. And as has been stated here, I think the concept of serving community really is rooted in, please don't do anything for us without us. I have really developed, I think, primarily a skill in meaningfully listening to the people that I serve and using that feedback and that input to impact the way I do my work on a daily basis. And my daily work does involve reviewing use of force, watching body-worn camera video, making policy recommendations, and all of the normal things that we've all had experience doing here. But it's the approach to it that I wanted to highlight here tonight.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Sasrita Sadula, and I'll be working primarily on data-related components for the team. I work with various criminal justice agencies across the country, including several major police departments, like the Los Angeles Police Department, Chicago Police Department, and New York City Police Department. I've worked as an analyst, auditor, researcher, and investigator. I also have a doctoral degree in criminal justice from John Jay College in New York City, and worked on several academic publications and presentations. While at the Chicago Police Department, I worked in the audit division. At the time, CPD had just entered into a consent decree with the state attorney general's office. I worked proactively on projects related to the consent decree so that the superintendent and other top officials would have a sense of where things stand in the department. I also performed audits at the request of the independent monitoring team to provide them with additional information as they conducted their compliance assessments. This experience was unique and it allowed me to see the role and responsibilities of a monitor from within a department. In the monitorship, I'll be responsible for several areas, including but not limited to the collection and analysis of law enforcement data and accessible presentation of these findings. I have extensive experience conducting both quantitative and qualitative studies, including several projects where I analyze large data sets from agencies like the NYPD and New York City Probation. I've also conducted interviews and reviewed surveys, as stakeholder and community input is vital when working to improve agencies and ensuring sustainability. Thank you for your time. I'm excited to be here and I look forward to working with you. I'll now pass it off to my colleague, Dr. Rob Fernango.
Great, thanks, Ashuta. And thank you everyone for allowing us the opportunity to speak with you. My name is Rob Fernango. My role on the monitorship with this team would be as a subject matter expert in data analysis. And I have 25 years of experience designing and executing original research projects in two different spheres, both in criminology and criminal justice, with a number of studies that focused on law enforcement interventions, their impacts and their effectivenesses, as well as healthcare quality improvement. And a primary thread through that research has been in understanding three things: how law enforcement and healthcare agencies deliver services to their communities, whether those services are effective and provided within the bounds of current policies, and how those services can be improved. And the success of these projects is really hinged on three key principles of using relevant and diverse data sources and metrics in order to tackle the issues at hand, applying appropriate analytic techniques.
Hey, Rob?
Yes.
My apologies for interrupting. I've realized that we've run a little bit long on time, and that's and I apologize for that. If you can, maybe just a last sentence to summarize.
Yeah,
And there's one more quick introduction and we'll wrap. I apologize, Rob.
Okay, no problem. I'll follow up with one thing and sort of echo something that a number of my colleagues have mentioned tonight. Is I was working on our healthcare projects, myself and my team, we always took a time every day to think about the impact of our work on the patient. And that always made them the center of what we were doing. And I believe that this monitorship needs that same approach and thinking about how our combined efforts impact the community of Portland, its citizens, and the officers of PPB. So I'll turn it over now to my colleague, Jose Ramirez.
Everyone, I'll keep it really brief. Jose Cherabitas here, and I bring over 15 years of service provider, public sector, and lived experience expertise to the table. If granted the opportunity with our team, my role specifically would be to advise and inform on areas of the agreement focused on community-based health services and crisis intervention. I've had the privilege of serving as Deputy Mayor for Homelessness for 2 administrations now, and currently serve as a Senior Advisor on Homelessness Operations for Mayor Bass. And have been a privilege to work with her on her nationally recognized encampment resolution program known as Inside Safe. So looking forward to the conversation, collaboration opportunity here, work with the community. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Okay, so now we've heard from all three of us. Oh, sorry. That hand mic, I think it must be on. Okay. Oh, we're getting a lot of feedback. Okay, thank you. Yep, that's what I got. Yeah. Yes. Okay, is this working? Oh, hello? Yeah, okay. Okay, so, thank you. Could the lead monitors? Thanks, Heidi. The technology is just amazing, isn't it? Can the lead monitors from each team please come back up, and you can sit here. If you have key members of your team that you want to have up for answering questions as well, people are welcome to come. We set up seats in the back row as well. And at that side table, if you would like to be close together. So if you'll come up, then we'll be taking questions.
Yeah, sure. Up front. Are we all together?
All right, everybody. And maybe see if we put this one close. Thank you so much for being our tech guys. You're like. Fast and round, yes, a lot of times, but thank you. Maybe that one over there could stay on at that end. Okay.
Did it.
I did it. I feel better.
I don't think I should be there, but I'll take it.
Ooh, thank you for that.
Look,
Yeah.
I'm ready.
That should have woken you up if you were starting to get a little sleepy. Thank you so much. Thanks for being back here, and thanks for this great, there's a lot of us, there's a lot to get done, but it's really great to be able to have, I'm always in favor of transparency. I'm really happy that this has been set up so the community can be a part of this process as well. So we have some questions in the chat. I'm trying to find them again. They went away from my screen. Let me see if I can get them back. Okay, so first, Jimmy Johnson, are you able to turn on and speak now? Can you hear me? Your hand is up, so I'm hoping, and now I found the questions again. Okay. Jimmy, when you can, just please say something, and we'll come to you for the next one. I'm going to start with a question here. Many members of MPS have a background in police forces. Russell Bloom stated he believes in giving more resources to police. How does MPS plan to be independent and recommend substantive accountability in light of PPP harms?
Thank you for that question. I can start by mentioning again that our team is comprised very heavily of folks who are engaged in civilian oversight of law enforcement. Our entire career is focused on independence and objectivity when it comes to assessing how police departments are doing in compliance with policy, law, constitutional, and professional policing. The goal of our job is to be objective arbiters of what police departments are doing, what they need to do better, and make recommendations where we find things that they can improve. That's the nature of our work day to day, and we feel extremely comfortable with it. And if you'll allow me, I think the question I understand had some issues with regard to our interest in what Mr. Bloom had said. And if you don't mind, I'll run over and we'll do a quick handoff.
Thank you. And I'll find the camera. Thanks for the question. To be clear, what I was referring to was our ability or my ability in my daily work to find opportunities to help the police department improve its practices, procedures, policies, and all of its efforts to properly serve the communities that we all serve. Those police departments should certainly be appropriately resourced to do the work and provide public safety, but it is incredibly important that it's done with oversight, with accountability, with responsibility to the people that we all serve. So I hope that clarifies anything that may have been related to resourcing police officers.
Great, thank you. And I want to see, is there anybody in the room that I'm just double checking for hands being up in the room? Yes, Edith. Yeah, would you be okay coming up and using the mic so that everyone can hear you, or I can repeat it? Okay, I'll repeat your question too. People online won't be able to hear you.
Specific to anyone, so I guess, does it have to be directed to a team? Okay. What are your thoughts on community police oriented policing as a crime fighting strategy? Community police oriented policing as a crime fighting strategy.
Does anybody want to take that first? Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm Katie from the CGI team. I'm going to pass to my colleague T. Bowman to answer that question on behalf of our team.
Thank you. Believe it or not, I'm T. Bowman again. I had the really good fortune of serving as the chief of police. I believe that true policing starts and ends with the community. The way that modern policing was designed to work, the community was always supposed to be a partner with the police. And today, successful policing doesn't occur because the police have all the ideas and have all the programs, but because the community is brought in and is made a part of the decision-making process, a part of the decision-making apparatus. Policing is designed so that the people in the community can experience the police like they want to and like they deserve to. So when community policing is the philosophy, and when the department embraces community policing, then the community is part and parcel of the entire process of policing. In fact, Sir Robert Peel, known as the father of modern policing, in 1829, when he set forth the principles for the London Metropolitan Police, in fact said, the police is the community and the community is the police. The police being those members of the community who are paid to perform the duties that are incumbent upon every citizen.
Any other teams want to have a response to that?
Thank you. Daryl Meyer from DLG. So I just want to read something that I stated before because I think it goes right to your question and was in our executive summary of our proposal. So if you would just indulge me for a minute. We understand that the bedrock of any consent decree is the relationship between the city's community groups, and the amicis. and the men and women of the Police Bureau. The police must carefully consider how the residents want their communities policed and what the priorities are. The community, in turn, must consider how to assist and cooperate with police in crime fighting and share information to enhance public safety. That is the bedrock of what we're about. We want to make sure that the community has a say. We have to keep you safe. You need to assist the police department. The police department needs to assist you.
Thanks, everyone. Again, I'm Mark Smith. I just want to mention that we really ascribe to the viewpoint that the police do their jobs with consent of those policed. They're here as public servants, just as I'm a public servant in my government work as well. And I think it's important to recognize that. They're here to serve the public good, and that can be done best when there is true partnership and community policing focus that is healthy, that is meaningful, and that is really addressing the roots, the causes of crime and victimization, and is doing so in an equitable and fair fashion at all times for everyone in the community. And if I could, I just wanted to see if hopefully we can get JT, Chief Thomas, to see if he can unmute and offer any of his thoughts.
Yeah, I'm chomping at the bits on this one. One of the things I think where policing has failed is we've compartmentalized community policing. And I think that we're at a transition in American policing where, as I mentioned before, it has to be institutionalized, that the community has to feel comfortable in our departments. They have to feel a part of it. And it's not very difficult to get officers on board with it, because officers, like any other profession, they will do the things that there is a great benefit to them to do. When you institutionalize a community policing as a philosophy that's ingrained in the department, and they are measured in their performance evaluations, merit pay, and promotions, then you'll start seeing the paradigm shift. But right now, American policing has compartmentalized what that means, and officers have interpreted, and some departments truly believe that that is not the work of every officer. So I think that in order for us as a profession to make that paradigm shift, it has to be decompartmentalized.
Thank you. I think we heard from all three teams. Is that correct? Want to make sure everyone has a chance. Thank you. We have a question, Debbie Iona. We've had a compliance officer community liaison up until now. Can you explain how things will change with an independent monitor, both from the public's perspective and the relationship with the court and the involved parties? And I'm just not walking this around because I have a very bad back condition. So I'm going to ask that you pass it down so you're not always the first one. Okay, gotta watch that.
Happy to pass down and hopefully receive back when ready.
You can go first because I went first last year. That's fine.
Oh, okay.
All happy to take turns. No issues whatsoever. I think at the start of the meeting, there was a really good explanation given about some of the differences between the current arrangement and what there will be under a monitorship. And the key to that is really in the title, in my estimation, independent monitor. I've said it, I know, a couple times, and I'll apologize if I repeat it too much, but so much of our team has worked in independent oversight offices. Currently, I work for the Office of the Inspector General of Los Angeles Police Department. We are not within the LAPD. We are separate from them so that we have a distance between us and the department and an ability to be unbiased in everything that we do, to call balls and strikes as we see it, to let the facts lead us where they lead us. And if that turns out to favor an officer's point of view in a complaint investigation, so be it. If it turns out to favor a complainant's point of view in that investigation, so be it. Whatever the facts tell us is where we're going to go. And when it comes to an independent monitor, as opposed to the arrangement that comes now, that's in place now, I think you get that that objectivity that maybe was potentially lacking in certain circumstances.
I think I'm going to start off and pass it over to Corey Lowe in a second, so Corey can get ready to speak. But I think accountability and transparency becomes very, very important. When EFIT, the External Force Investigation Team, came out of an agreement between DOJ and the city of Albuquerque. And there was a stipulated order that formed EFIT, and I was honored to be appointed as the EFIT administrator. The stipulated order did not have us meeting with the community groups. The stipulated order did not have us providing quarterly reports. The stipulated order did not have us meeting with the amici groups. I felt that transparency and accountability was very, very important. And we instituted those things. We met with the police community councils every month. I made sure that myself and my executive team traveled to all the police field divisions, met with the field commanders. We need to develop trust. You don't know me from Adam. I need to trust you. You need to trust me. We need to have trust within the police department and accountability. And I think that's the bedrock. That's really what we're gonna be about with the DLG team. Corey?
Yeah, and we're gonna have to keep answers brief because it's already 7:35. We have a couple other questions.
Okay.
So if you want to be very brief and then pass it down.
I will be very brief. We are taking the role of the DOJ in this aspect. So you had the COCL and you had the DOJ. We will be taking that role. And as far as the relationship with the court, that's a really important relationship that you have to build with the judge. And we're going to be speaking with the judge and helping the judge understand all the progress that is going along. So I will keep it very short.
Thank you.
In that same vein, I'll keep it short for us as well. Many members of our team have worked on monitoring teams across the country, either on the monitoring team or within agencies that have been monitored. The monitoring relationship with the court, as you just mentioned, is really important and is an arm of the court and considered an arm of the court. And it has a lot of weight to carry with that. Part of the reason why we have so many members on our team is so that we can do deep dives into what's remaining for the settlement agreement and make sure that we're doing a quality job and looking into every corner in order to make sure that the monitor is informing the court and the community of progress made.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, wait.
Sure.
Send the mic back down. Great. Okay, this question is from two members of Hopwatch. For the most part, the settlement agreement doesn't mandate, whoops, it went somewhere from me. Don't do that, don't flip. For the most part, the settlement agreement doesn't mandate outcomes, but rather processes. Let's say the city meets a requirement, such as forming a new riot squad. However, in doing so, they put officers in leadership positions who have been implicated in excessive use of force incidents that have cost the city money on settlements, or they've been implicated in placing embarrassing and biased training slides in training presentations. How would you handle a situation like this?
David, I think it's your turn.
This is my turn to go
It's your
first.
turn.
All right, so I'll go first. Again, I think that the accountability, making sure that we're doing our job in oversight, and that's our function. Our function is oversight. Our function is to provide enhanced technical assistance. Our team and our proposal was not to wait and do it 6 months later when it's mandated that a report gets issued and make recommendations. We're going to be making recommendations to get this done on time and on budget. Darrell, you want to talk about the use of force piece on that?
Really quick. I'm Darrell Bone. With regard to supervision is incredibly important within law enforcement. Anybody who's been a supervisor in law enforcement, if you start seeing problematic issues, you'll see them clustered, and you can go to the supervisor, and when you see who that supervisor was, you're like, oh, yeah, well, there you go. So in our role, we can help identify trends. We can make recommendations for policy, training tactics. And that's how I would address it, to make a recommendation that, hey, maybe this isn't the right person for the job. You might want to look somewhere else because maybe this person has a reputation for being heavy-handed, or inappropriate. And we need to find the correct place for them. So that's, anybody have anything to add?
So I think just very briefly, I would add, this is Mark Smith again, that we think a lot in terms of both front end and back end accountability as we do our jobs. We think about, are the policies and procedures, yes, in place that ought to be in place? We think about risk management tools and how are those developed and are those being effective, but also back end accountability as well. When things go wrong, what is done to address that? Whether it be through the discipline system, whether it be through removal of someone from a particular assignment, whether it be through other remedies that are available to cities and police departments when they have problematic officers or problematic areas. And so we think about both of those things that need to be in place all at once when we think of the broader term of accountability. So I hope that's maybe a general way to address some of the concerns that were raised.
I'm going to attempt to use this microphone. Okay. I'm going to pass it to my colleague, Dr. Richard Rosenthal, for a short answer from our team.
Sure, thanks. And hopefully everyone can hear me. I think really the heart of this question from Portland Cop Watch comes to the issue of just checking the boxes. And obviously in a settlement agreement, checking the boxes is a way that is used to identify compliance, but it's got to be more than that. We're going to be looking at implementation. We're going to be looking at the culture of the organization and the work that the organization is doing to see that the culture will support effective and constitutional policing. So hopefully that addresses the question.
Thank you. Was that, took care of that? Okay, great, thanks. And I have a question in the room. And then you, okay, and then you, Dr. Hall.
So this, settlement agreement is about unconstitutional use of force against people with mental illness. And a lot of the talk has been about just general policing of police and preventing bad things from happening. But there's been huge progress in the police department in relation to mental health. It started with a guy getting beaten to death who was in a mental health crisis. Now, the biggest trend for the last 2 or 3 years is a reduction in the use of force in mental illness cases. And the reason is not because the cases have gone down, but because 85% of the time, police are taking people to the hospital. And so if they're not being taken to the hospital anymore, it's almost the reverse of a problem of unnecessary force and becomes a problem of possibly not doing the job. We don't know, I don't know as a citizen, why that change has occurred. And one of the issues is that there's not any communication about the police, the Bureau's strategy about that. But what I would like to know is, in a state where we have really a logjam mental health system, and the police are trying to work in a system that simply doesn't work, they don't have places to take people, how are you going to deal with that problem? It's not a discipline problem, it's a policy problem. And who's got the expertise on mental health among these teams, and who's got some thoughts about that problem?
So I'm actually going to recommend we not dig into that because there is a lot there. Several people did have people with mental health backgrounds on their teams to say. I just want to say, somebody's asked, can the meeting go over? It can't. I'm sorry. We have a hard stop. So we have like 15 minutes. I want to cover some key topics. Are you okay with that? Or, okay. So,
It's okay not to be okay. I hear you. I see you. I think for me, it's a log, but this is an opportunity to build bridges. And I'm just going to go out on a city-county limb. There is support. I think we have all the resources that we need. It's the collaborative effort to move forward with that. So when we're talking about community engagement and partnership, I'd like to extend that chair that sometimes isn't filled with county and support and resources. That's just one piece of it. I know it gets deeper, and I respect Julie saying we got to go on, but that's a huge question because mental health, James Chassie, he's in my spirit. I hear you.
thank you. Thank you. Okay.
I had a brain surgery a while back, so I'll need to sit down. And so I just want to say that a couple of things that my name is Professor Hall, and I have to, I will kind of bounce my question to the city and the DOJ, Jonah, and to the respective candidates. The first thing that the community believes needs to happen to this question to the city, will there be an audit of the funds that were given out to the last firm, to Dr. Robert Rosenbaum's efforts? Will there be an audit of how much money was spent and how much left? And will these folks get the non-compliance reports of what he did not do? There was a lot of intellectual dishonesty that was part of his process. And it's very deep when you give your time. And so in context to my question to you all, there was an intellectual evaluation measure put in called partial compliance. Either you get shot or you don't get shot. Either you're representing best practices or you're not. So my question to the prospective firms, will you remove the partial compliance evaluation component? Either things are getting done or they're not. And so that's important.
Dr. Hall, thank you for your question. You and I talk after this meeting, so I want to make sure that the monitoring candidates have time to answer questions. Yes, they will get the prior reports, and I think the question goes to the city about the audit. Let's talk more about that after the meeting, if that's okay, Dr. Hall. I'm happy to do it publicly. I don't want to eat up their time. They've paid for travel here to be here today. I hear you.
No, he's talking about substantial complaints. Partial compliance doesn't make us, it's not. He was like, in Michigan now.
The mayor removed all the volunteer citizens, so I need to, question from the student, for me to hold, I have prepared remarks, but I'm very straightforward. You know, if I told Rosenbaum, I said, my grandfather would say, you can't steal the snowman. You're creating a bridge between the city and the citizens. If you want to get a big paycheck, you at least do the work. And so my question here is that if you want, there were key Black people brought in that were on payroll. I'm not going to say that they were on the payroll of Bossy, on Bossy in the Malcolm X demise, but they were sent to destroy the process and prevent policy. So if you want someone to talk nice about a corrupt process, then you should have brought in a different kind of Black man, because I'm not the kind of a Black man that's going to say that the previous process was an effective process. There were errors, and I don't mean that they were mistakes. I mean, there were conscious efforts, and I would even.
Dr. Hall, we're going to need to get to the end of the question so that it can.
My question is to the city, thank you for their time, is will you provide these folks with the budget that was provided to the previous person that was allegedly doing the monitoring process, and will you provide the compliance reports? And then the follow-up question is, which is why I'm originally here, how would the community needs to understand how is it that Attorney Warren, who was the African-American attorney, did not make the final cut, and when Ernie Warren and the neighborhood association.
So Dr. Hall, if I could answer your question, I can't comment on other applicants at all, but what I can answer is your question. I'm sorry, sir, can I answer your question that you had about the budget? Thank you so much. So each team has put forth a proposal for their budget, and when we see what the final proposal is, then the city, that would come to the city, and council would need to approve that and authorize that contract. And so I think the proposals we've seen have been higher than what the COCO was paying, so it would be an increase in that budget. The compliance reports that the COCO has done are absolutely, they're all publicly available. So they are available to all of these folks even now. So they should have full access to them. And I'm sorry I can't get into the rest of.
Do.
And Dr. Call, also, Heidi was telling me that please send something to her requesting an audit, like that you can request that there's an audit. There's no plans for one currently.
The question was, what was the matrix process used to determine the final candidate?
Right, and they won't discuss, we can't discuss anything about the hiring process.
Most warned the attorney filed a lawsuit against the city for killing a kid that gave an unarmed woman, and most attorneys wouldn't have taken that case for fear of retaliation.
So you're concerned that he is, that because he filed that suit, that may have made, okay?
The data that these folks need to review before anyone is selected and before they start the strategic efforts. The data about the intellectual dishonesty that happened with the previous guy.
Great.
So that's my point here. This is a very important time.
Yeah, and I do understand that, and I want to be sure we have a big, long list of questions also coming on online. So I want to be able to get to as many of those as we can, okay? And I do think that there's conversations to be had. Also, all of your comments are being, they're being listened to. There is going to be public comment arenas where you can put in comments about this too. I will get to you, but I have about 6 people in front of you. So it's going to be, going to make it as fast as I can. It's very frustrating to me when we can never have enough time for things. But there's a couple things here that I think are important to have answered. Dr. Nair, is that how you say your name? Nair, thank you. It's an anonymous attendee. I've seen recent reports showing that Daryl Nair has posted harmful content to social media, showing a bias for police and against Black lives. He posted Blue Lives Matter to his Facebook page and works with a company that does business with PPB. Then it asks what vetting was done for all of these candidates to confirm no conflict of interest and no bias for police and against communities of color. So that's actually, the vetting is still in process, right? Because we're in and they can't comment on that, but I did want to let you respond if you'd like.
That's a great question. And yes, that was a post. There was nothing about Black Lives Matter as a post, but I have, in my prior life, I spent 20 years in a prosecutor's office. I ride, or have ridden with the Police Unity Tour, to honor fallen police officers, cycle 360 miles from New Jersey around Ground Zero down to Washington, DC. And I have posted that, and I am proud of that. I'm also proud that I have taken the oath of office numerous times in my professional career to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. For everybody, whether they are Black, brown, white, purple, whatever ethnic nationality they are. I don't do anything that is, that will affect that oath of office, nor will I as a monitor if I'm chosen to do that. So yes, social media posts are out there. I stand behind what I had said on social media, but again, I've taken that oath of office and I'm willing to meet with anybody and talk about any issues that come up.
Thank you. Another question that, and I'm having some feedback that not letting every team answer for every question. And I realize that that's frustrating. I wish we didn't have a hard stop. We have 9 minutes left. There's going to be a bunch of questions that don't get answered. So I just want to make sure that I catch there was one other one that I felt was more what you might consider something that, okay, now I'm not finding the question. And it was about the LA. So Okay, it's so hard. I will tell you guys, I have ADD. This is so hard to be tracking all of this with not enough time. So I'm just gonna tell you.
Can I
that.
ask a question? So for the questions that aren't able to be asked tonight because of the time, since the vetting period with the community is through March 24th, is that what you all said? Is it possible to pass our teams the questions for us to answer them in writing, at some point and then post them online so that we can answer them?
I think that, I'll have to talk to everybody, the DOJ,
Sure.
yeah, because that's not part of what the settlement agreement's called for.
I understand.
So, but I'm very open to considering that. I think it's a great idea, but we need to talk to everybody about that.
Sure.
And make sure that both DOJ and our teams are on board. But what we can do is, I'm trying to figure out how to get an answer to the community so they know that what we decide to do. Maybe what we'll do is ask PSEP to post something once we can all talk and decide, and also have the mayor's office post something so that the information can get out about what the answer is to that. I just can't make the decision by myself. I'm sorry.
I understand.
But I appreciate the
Yes, and let's see. Which one are we talking about? Yeah, oh, okay, so this one goes to MPS. It says MPS has worked with LASD and LAPD. Recent news has been revealing continued issues with LASD gangs, LAPD brutality, and more. How have your team been involved in removing these influences and stopping these issues?
And thank you for the question. We certainly have been involved with exactly what the question is asking for. I don't think it's controversial to say that oversight of police and police reform is a never-ending process. And that's what I believe, at least. It will never get to a point where we've finished, it's done. There never needs to be oversight of departments ever again. I don't see that as being realistic. Police departments grow, they change, they evolve, policies change, politics change. There needs to always be an independent, objective, watchful eye on police departments. And so as some of these challenges arise, we do our best to ensure that there's accountability for them. We recognize that new challenges may arise in the future. What our job is to do is be a watchful eye on behalf of the public, an independent, objective, watchful eye. And I know we're tight on time. If I can maybe just do a very, very quick sentence or two from my colleague, Brian Buckner.
Brian Buckner. So the work that I did for the monitor of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department was a number of years ago. Just like the Christopher Commission report for the LAPD, there was a similar report called the Colts report for the Sheriff's Department. It identified a number of particular areas of concern around deputy sheriff use of force, the use of canines, and complaint investigations and just general accountability structures. So our work for the monitor of the Sheriff's Department focused on those key areas. But as Mark said, the continual oversight of the Sheriff's Department was ongoing for years, and the nature of the oversight structure in LA County has changed, but that ongoing oversight work continues.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, so we just we're out of time, but and we're gonna have we had another question here, and I'm sorry, we have this hard stop. I'm gonna ask you a really quick one. I want one word from each team, please, on because someone asked, can one person from each team describe 3 characteristics that are unique to Portland? Please just name one that you know is unique to Portland.
Go ahead.
Portlandia.
No. Oh, man.
I'd say community involvement.
Committed.
Eddie's gonna take the microphone.
All right, so DOJ and the city teams did a quick consult. We're all in agreement. So please, we will gather all the questions in the chat. If there are folks here who want to write down questions and hand them to us,
Please.
we will send them out to the teams. We will ask them to do a quick turnaround.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we will, we'll figure out where to post it for all of you so you can see the answers. Yeah. And we're going to announce that too. Yeah. We are out of time.
We are.
Well,
Yeah.
we have 4 minutes. Do you have a very quick summary? Okay. I just can't, I'm sorry.
Yes, good evening to you. My name is Pastor Harris. And the question that I have is centered around excessive force. I want to introduce my question this way. Adam and Eve, a vision of sin was disobedience and partaking of the forbidden tree. That was their original sin. But today, almost 6,000 years later, we probably have thousands, perhaps millions or more sins have morphed from that original sin. America's original sin is white supremacy. So my question to you is, how will you screen officers? How will you screen out officers who possess a mentality of white supremacy? Seeing that the demographics in America as a nation has greatly changed, and even to the point that our present day immigration policies are really based on a point of view of too many people of color are coming into America, and there are many folk who have this mentality, and they actually hide this mentality, but the mentality in government is manifested by policies and regulations. And so I don't know who I'm directing this question to, but how, and it's present also in our present day military, Navy, Army, Marines. So is there a process of screening officers, men and women who possess a deep sense of white supremacy, and that you must be subjected to me, and in the process, this is manifested by excessive force?
Thank you so much. And so I'm going to see if I can boil that down to a quick answer, which is if you could each quickly address, because you're not going to be deciding who's on a force, but can you quickly address how you see the white supremacist movement, the white nationalist movement that there is evidence shows up in police and military forces? How do you factor for that, and how do you think about that as you do your work? And make it really quick. I'm going to start. Will you start? You have your microphone.
I need to pass it back there, though.
Okay, who gets it back there?
Shante. Thanks. Just really quickly though, before Shante speaks, a lot of monitorship involves assessment. That's part of our plan as well. We have a whole cadre of people here that are focused on that too, but I'll pass it to Shante Boston to answer for our team.
When you look at uses of force and excessive force, it's all dealing with behavior. And so there's always a deep dive into why a particular officer is exercising or using the type of behavior that they have. And sometimes that will take you all the way back to the background check. What did you find in their background check when you went to go do their employment, when you ask questions about diversity and things of that nature? So even though it may not be in the settlement agreement that we can do a deep dive like that, but that's where the technical assistance come in at, where we will start to look at individuals and the behavior and help to address that behavior by looking at the root cause of them getting on the police department.
Thank you. Russell Bloom, again, part of MPS. I want to address it by saying this. In our daily work, when we're reviewing processes, some of the things that we're looking at is the quality of those processes. And an example would be if I'm reviewing an internal affairs investigation and I see it's riddled with leading questions, or there are holes in the inquiry, or evidence wasn't reviewed, I highlight that and try to improve it for the next time, right? So similarly, when we look at background investigation and screening processes, we are able to see flaws in those processes. And there needs now to be an evolution of those processes with an understanding of the importance of screening out people with white supremacist idealism, being a part of any law enforcement agency. And there are ways to improve those processes that we are aware of, that can be recommended, that can be implemented, and that can be monitored. And that can, in an overarching way, ultimately improve the culture of a police department.
Corey Lowe with DLG. I talked about it a little bit before, but when you have data collection revolving around uses of force, a big part of that is collection of demographics. And that goes to, Dr. Winograd actually helped us with APD with this, is we also look at misconduct and sustained findings. And with that, you're going to be able to get demographics of your officers. And from there, you're able to see any trends, and then that's where you're going to give to your management, and we can make recommendations and observations, and then for the department to act on those recommendations and observations. And it may well go back to the hiring process as well. Again, it's always an evolution of always improving a department.
Thank you. And by the comments online, sounds like I have universally disappointed quite a few of the online people by what questions I chose to bring forward. And so whatever that means, probably that's how it rolls. I'm sorry, always trying to do my best. Appreciate the questions very much. Appreciate everyone's time here. I'm just going to pass it to Heidi for very quick next steps, and thank you all for being here.
Right, so DOJ and the city are continuing to receive public comment through March 24th. That email address, please send your comments to our monitor.hire@portlandoregon.gov. Your feedback is greatly appreciated. Report to city council. The step after that will be, there'll be a report to city council. It'll go through DOJ's vetting process, and then we will report to city council for them to approve a joint motion for appointment of the monitor. And then we will go to court to request that monitor appointment. And we'll also begin contract discussions with the proposed candidate pending the court approval. So those are the next steps. Really want to thank everybody so much for coming out tonight. I'm going to turn it back over to Judith to sum us up.
Just very quickly, I want to remind people, you can rewatch this whole thing online so you can hear what everyone said. There was a big question about why I cut off the question around mental health expertise on the teams. People did cover that when you introduced your teams. It's hard to catch it all. Please rewatch the presentations if you want to get caught up on some of those things as well. Thank you all so much.
I'm hungry. You're always hungry.